Welcome to the Genius Talk podcast. I'm your host Atul Raj from the bestemailmarketer.com, and today we have Natalie Kaminski from JetRocket.com with us. Natalie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. So, for our listeners who don't know you, can you tell them who you are and what do you do?
Yes. So my name is Natalie, as you said, and I am the CEO and co-founder of a company called JetRockets. We build custom software, web, and mobile applications. We work primarily with technology called Ruby on Rails. That is our sweet spot. And we help startups launch their technical platforms, as well as work with a lot of non-technical companies and founders, helping them bring technology into their daily life.
Okay, that's good. So, what inspired you to start JetRocket?
Well, JetRockets has been around for 16 years. And prior to launching JetRockets, I spent about 12 years in the IT industry. So yes, I just aged myself, but it is what it is. I started in the IT back in 1998. Your listeners still remember, at that time, Y2K was a big deal. The year was switching to 2000, and a lot of legacy platforms were not coded to deal properly with a 4-digit year. So I entered, it was pretty easy to get a job in the IT world. You just had to say that you knew technology, you knew how to code. And that's how I ended up getting my first job. I said, oh, yeah, I can absolutely code. And I was hired by this medical device company to update their database and migrate it to a 4-digit, from a 2-digit database to a 4-digit database. Now, if your listeners are somewhat technical, they'll probably say, well, that sounds like an easy migration job that, you can do with a couple lines of code. But you have to remember, it was 1998. So, over 20 years ago, the coding practices were very different. Technology was very different. And this particular task proved to be quite challenging for someone who was just starting out. But nevertheless, I persevered. I finished the task and I understood two things about myself. One, I love technology and the promise it brought to humanity, to the world. Two, I did not want to be an engineer. I did not want to be a coder. And so I spent the next decade really finding my path, finding my way in the IT world. I worked as a QA tester, as business analyst, as project manager, as database architect. I became a webmaster in early 2000s. So I got to know the web technology. And so I just kept working my way up, in a variety of companies, large and small. And ultimately I felt ready. And I said, you know what? I think I've gained enough expertise and enough knowledge to go and freelance. That was my original idea, is to freelance. And of course, one thing led to another. And 16 years later, I have a team of 50 engineers. We have helped hundreds of companies launch their products. Some of them have won awards. Some of them have gone, on to successful exits. Some of them are products that are used on a daily basis. So it's exciting.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so you have known for helping non-technical founders bridge the digital gap. So, what mistake do you see most often from non-technical founders while building a tech product?
It's an excellent question. So the biggest mistake, and this I'm just gonna kind of walk you through the typical path of a non-technical founder embarking on this journey of launching a technical startup. So they get an idea. They Most of the time, by the way, I just have to say that most technical founders do a pretty good job at finding product market fit, because for them, not being technical, their initial goal is not to go and develop technology. They actually do spend time trying to find an alternative on the market. So they try all sorts of solutions that are available on the market, and they try to understand, well, can I solve my problem with this solution? And so inevitably they conduct market research. And then if ultimately they still decide to build something custom, most of the time it is valid. Like it's a valid solution to a valid problem, because, it's not just, oh, I'm a techie. I can just develop code. So let me just write some code, right? That's not their first initial mark, but this is where they make mistakes. Let's say they have an idea. They know how to solve it. They hire a freelancer off of Upwork, and they say, like the cheapest they can find. And they say, let's build this platform for me that is going to make me a lot of money. And, I think there's something to be said about people wanting to make a lot of money, but not willing to invest. right?
Mhm.
Like if that
Yeah,
was possible, everybody would be doing it, right?
exactly.
So like people have to first remember that if you want to make money, you have to spend money. And so the typical path, the mistakes that people make are, as I said, they hire an Upwork or some other freelancer
And
who in about 2, 3 months gets a full-time job and kind of, stops working on their platform. And so they end up with this half-baked system that kind of works, but really doesn't. And what do they do next? They say, oh, let me find the cheapest possible agency that
yeah,
I can hire to take
yes.
over my code. So fast forward 3 months, they found the cheapest agency possible because the only decision maker they used was financial. And now they hired this agency who, added on to the technical debt. So now they have 6 months worth of code that has been written by probably very low paying people,
Mhm.
and it still doesn't do what it needs, what they want it to do, still doesn't provide the quality, the expectations are still not met. And only after they realize, and if they still have money, by the way, because remember, all these six
Yeah,
months takes a lot of money and resources and time. So if they still lucky enough to still have those resources, eventually they find someone like JetRockets, and then they actually get their platform done. Now, it may sound very promotional on my part, but it's true. Like a lot of people make the biggest mistakes that technical founders make are making financial to be the only metric of decision. And that should not be the case. I talk a lot about, actually do webinars once in a while about how to find a technical like partner.
mhm.
And first and foremost, you have to look for people who are not what I call yes people. Not people. It means a non-technical founder comes to an agency and says, I want to build this 25 features.
Mhm.
This person is going to say, oh yes, let us build it for you.
Yeah,
Not going to question the necessity. They're not going to question the business purpose. They just care about yeah, we did everything you asked me to do. But guess what? This is not what they needed you to do. What they needed you to do was to say, okay, let's review these 25 features together and see how these features are going to improve your product, how they're going
exactly.
to get more users, get more revenue so that your product actually succeed. So when you're looking for a partner, look for a partner who is going to question your requirements.
Exactly. Like I think when people go and hire someone from Fiverr, they just the Fiverr people, they're just like they act like an employee and they don't ask questions. Okay,
Mhm.
they don't challenge the founder
Yeah.
like you guys do, like I do when you talk with or start working with someone.
Yeah. Well, challenging, you kind of have to challenging the founder. And you have to think about it this way. If you go to a doctor or a lawyer or any other, professional service company, and you present them with an issue, maybe a health issue, and then you say, like, you don't tell your doctor how to heal you, right?
Yeah,
I mean, sometimes you might, but most of the time, like, you're going to a doctor because you're
yeah,
seeking input from a professional,
exactly. Yeah,
right? And it, does it have to be collaborative? Absolutely. Like a good doctor is going to work with you on making sure you're comfortable with the treatment plan. So a
exactly.
good software engineer is going to do the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're going to figure out like what they want is exactly for the result they want. Is this something that needed to be done or not? Or there is any another way, better way?
Yeah. Yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Hey, can you share a recent case study of yours?
I'm sorry.
Can you share a story of someone that you have helped with?
I mean, absolutely. Like, I can certainly share that couple of different stories. So
Yeah, yeah.
one, I'm going to share a story of um, two founders that came to me after about a year of working with another agency, and after spending six digits, like they spent a lot of money, a lot of time, like I said, the year, and they still didn't have the platform that they were looking for. They were building an app for female healthcare app, and after about a year, they still did not have the platform that they needed. And they started to understand that something is going on. And so they started to look for alternatives. They ended up coming to us, and we explained to them how the current code base was not up to par. It was definitely, not very well put together. It wasn't scalable. It barely could sustain the basic requirements that they had. And so we made the recommendation and we said, look, You have two options. The option that we recommend and we think that is going to be the best option for you is to rewrite this whole app from scratch. Yes, it sounds very terrible. It sounds painful because you put in a lot of effort, you put in a lot of sweat and a lot of passion into it for about a year. But frankly, what you have now is not easy to maintain. Number two, oh, and of course, I should say that option number one was a little bit more expensive in the beginning. Option number two was a little bit more affordable. However, we could not guarantee the same level of result because option number two was to try and maintain and sustain the code base that they had. But we were very upfront and we said, look, you have to understand that yes, it's not going to cost you as much as option number one right now. But as your app grows, we may come across, hurdles that prevent us from executing properly. So you'll end up paying more. And so the client, they deliberated a bit and they decided to go with option number two. Actually, they said, you know what? It's not even so much money. It's about the timing that was put in. We want to put it out there as fast as possible. And we accommodated them and we said, that's fine, that's okay. And we did everything we could to bring the app to be launchable, and they launched, they got users, etc. And two things happened, right? So first, the good thing is that they did attract users. But now these users started to provide them with feedback and request new features. And they wanted to continue and grow their platform. But remember how I told them, I said, look, it's going to be difficult to maintain because the code you have is not maintainable. So, 6 months later, they came back and they said, well, I wish we'll listen to you. I wish we listened to you when you told us to rewrite this. But, we do what we can. And so we continue to work with this client and we help them get to their goals the way that we can. I wish we were more efficient. Yeah, it is what it is. Go on our website. It's JetRockets.com. You guys can also find me on LinkedIn under my name, Natalie Kaminski. We definitely live in a very interesting world with a lot of interesting times, I would say, with a lot of AI advancements. And if you read LinkedIn, you sometimes hear a lot about, oh, you don't need engineers. Oh, AI can do everything for you. Oh, vibe coding is awesome. I see you're laughing, right? The truth of the matter is, on the one hand, yes, you can accomplish a lot more with AI now. And as a non-tech founder, your first stop should be, using some sort of AI platform like Lovable or maybe Replit to try and build a proof of concept of your platform. The beauty is that you really do not need to be technically advanced at this stage. And those platforms will allow you to create wonderful proof of concept sort of mock-ups, sort of hesitate calling it an MVP, a minimum viable product, because it's more like a prototype, right? So you'll be able to create a prototype of your platform and you'll be able to ideate and iterate and make changes and kind of conduct all the research that someone like I or like my company would do for you anyway. So now, if you do it on your own and you want to be scrappy and you want to be agile, these tools are available for you. So you should certainly take advantage. However, once you're done iterating and once you're done ideating, do consider hiring an actual agency, reputable agency that can help you bring this product to life without all the bad code, like tech that the AI platforms would create for you. Something that would be scalable, something that would be secure. Security is very important, and AI platforms do not take security as seriously still. I'm sure it'll change, but as of right now, it is true. And so, don't fall victim to these narratives that you read a lot on social media. It's simply false. Like AI does not replace engineers, period. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you.